Say Something podcast with Michelle True.
Valentine is coming. Valentine's Day is coming. And this season is full of roses, chocolate, proposals, matching outfits, and highlight reels of love. Everywhere we look, love is being packaged as perfect, effortless, and magical. But I've been married almost 19 years, and the longer that I've been married, the more I realize that real love doesn't look like the stories we were told as kids. And real love is not always as photogenic as we put on our social media pages. You are listening to Say Something podcast with your girl, Michelle True. And today we are going to dive into what it takes to survive marriage. Years ago, before I truly understood it, I wrote this poem called No Fair Tale. I didn't know then how prolific it would be. I didn't know it would end up describing my own marriage, its beauty, its pain, its cost, and its work. This episode is not about bashing marriage. It is far from it. It is about telling the truth. It is about putting our egos to the side so that we can actually survive it. If you are looking for perfection, this episode, any of my episodes, you are not going to find it here. But if you are looking for honesty, growth, and real covenant, I'm asking you to stay with me. Before I jump into segment 1, I would like to read to you my poem, No Fair Tale, because this is where the conversation begins. No fair tale. Once upon a time is how it always begins, and happily ever after is how it always ends. But no one ever talks about the in-between, the parts unseen, the arguments you may or may not mean, the stress of not having enough green, the fact that he don't always act like a king or she like a queen. Belle taught us you could change a beast into a man. Cinderella got her man running as fast as she can. Sleeping imparted on us that beauty was enough. And Jasmine and Tiana taught us that it was okay to be tough. All while Prince Charming simply showed up, gave a simple kiss that would always somehow lead to bliss. But you see, what they don't tell you in these fairy tales is sometimes you have to take the good with the bad, the happy with the sad, the jealousy, insecurities, unhealthy pet peeves that'll make you crazy and mad. It's all a part of the aftermath of falling in love with a stranger. We've always been taught the dangers, but when it comes to love, it seems like a game changer. So why is this so easy to believe? A damsel in distress. A prince saves her from dragons, evil witches, or whatever threats may come her way, with a little help from a fairy godmother to save the day. A majestic kiss from his lips, a soft caress on her hips, and she's on her tippy toes, ready to dance her whole life away with him. A magical moment, so whimsical, so beautiful, yet so unbelievable, so unrealistic. The reality is he plus she equals we, and 1 + 1 = 3. So love can't get caught up on just me. Cooperation, submission, and compassion can never go out of fashion if you want happily ever after, magical kisses, and eternal marital bliss. There is no fairy tale because there is always a price to pay for love. There is no fairy tale because you can't have a biased kind of love. There is no fairy tale because that supernatural power of love has to be built on, never guilted on. Hear me when I say, there will be ups and downs, late night cries and frowns, much after the glitter and rice hits the ground. Remember, when you say I take this person to be my lawfully wedded spouse, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and health, until death do us part, you are making a commitment to man and God that whatever life may throw your way, you are willing to work it out. No doubt. Ride or die, dry eyes or cry, whether truth or lie. And sometimes, yes, the question is why? And still, you compromise. That mirror, mirror on the wall can easily tell it all. And a pair of scissors can make the glass slipper fit if your foot gets bigger. But it takes work, trust, persistence, strength, prayer, confidence, loyalty, effort, patience, and laughter. So much laughter. These are the elements to living happily ever after, because there is no fairy tale. We love to say that marriage should be 50-50. But anyone who is married or who has ever been married knows that is a myth. Sometimes it's 60-40. Sometimes it's 20-80. Sometimes one person is carrying the emotional weight while the other person is carrying the financial weight. We assume marriage is fair, that it's symmetrical, that both sides should look the same at the same time. But marriage does not require fairness. It requires discernment. When I met my husband, we were both in undergrad. I graduated first and moved to Indianapolis. He was still in school in Kentucky. I was focusing on establishing a place for us, laying groundwork, thinking about our next steps. He was focused on finishing school. From the outside, someone could say it wasn't balanced, but it worked for us. After we got married and had our son, the roles shifted. I was home with our baby. He carried us financially and emotionally. At the time, I didn't know I was dealing with postpartum depression. I just knew I was leaning on him heavily, and he showed up. Our marriage has had these yo-yo seasons the entire time. Sometimes most times he carries more. And when it's my turn, I step up. But I understand something now that I didn't fully get back then. There are seasons to this thing. Before we got married, my husband lost both of his parents. I didn't fully understand his grief, but I respected it. I gave him space to figure out what loss meant to him. 4 years ago, my father passed away. And now I understand. And my husband has been right there, helping to shoulder my pain because he knows what it feels like. That's not a coincidence. That's discernment built over time. I heard Jada Pinkett Smith say on a Red Table Talk, but when Michelle Obama talked about it, I listened a little bit differently. She said through counseling, she learned that it was not her husband's job to make her happy. She had to find happiness on her own. What? What does that mean? Because what I understand now is that it wasn't fair for me to put that burden on my husband. But back then, I believed it was part of his job description. And that belief, without realizing it, put unrealistic pressures on our relationship. And what I know now is marriage isn't about one person completing the other. It's about two whole people choosing something together. I can't expect my spouse to carry all the weight and be the source of my joy, peace, fulfillment, and my healing. What I was asking him to carry was never meant for him to carry alone. Working as a cohesive union means that I have to do work on me as an individual. He has to do work on him as an individual. And that work doesn't always look or feel fair. That's why discernment matters. Financially, emotionally, spiritually. We've learned how to balance us. And I can't say we've always communicated that perfectly. It sounds ideal to say, I need you to pick up my slack right now. But real life is quieter than that. It's subtle. It's paying attention to your spouse. It's learning each other's patterns and feeling each other's energy. Because people don't like to ask for help, even in a marriage. And being a helpmate means sometimes noticing before being asked. And here's another lesson I've learned the hard way. Other people cannot dictate what is fair in your relationship. The more people you involve, the messier it becomes. And if outside opinions carry more weight in your marriage than the two people who are actually in it, that's a real problem. When we first got married, I often ran to one of my homeboys for a male perspective. What am I supposed to do here? I don't understand this. This does not seem fair. I thought I was getting solid advice, but the truth is, my friend wasn't married. And in hindsight, I can see how that looked questionable. My husband had female friends too, and my husband is very friendly. I was not a fan. I had to explain to him that friendliness, especially from a talented, educated, attractive black man, can be misinterpreted. His smile, his compliments, his warmth, to some people could read as availability. And that's the kind of misunderstanding that can turn into 2 a.m. phone calls about their relationship and our relationship problems. I wasn't asking him to stop smiling. I wasn't asking him to stop being kind. I was asking him to be more aware, because awareness can prevent you from ending up somewhere you never intended to be. And here's what I've noticed. Whenever we brought outside voices into our marriage, we left more confused than when we started. I'm not saying you can't seek advice. I'm saying you have to weigh that advice carefully. Just because something worked for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Boundaries differ. Tolerance differs. Trauma differs. And when two people become one, the boundaries change. That's why I'm cautious when people judge marriages from the outside. I think a lot about celebrities. Cardi B, for example. People had opinions when she took her husband back. They had more opinions when he messed up again. But none of us know the cost of their relationship. None of us know what they deemed fair or what boundaries they had set behind closed doors. None of us know what they decided together. That's the danger of outside commentary. We start talking about other people's marriages as if they're our own. And the reality is, people on the outside are often less forgiving. They haven't built a relationship. They haven't paid the cost. So it's easy for them to say, girl, you should just leave. Move on. You deserve better. But the people who fix a marriage are the ones who live in it. Now, I do believe that love can be blind. Sometimes we are in something and we cannot see the red flags. And there are people who love us who might see something we don't. That is valid, that is real. But I also know this. The people who fix a marriage are the people who lay down together at night, the people who have their pillow talk, the ones who decide together that their marriage is worth fighting for. Love is not fair. It is not a seesaw that is balanced. Sometimes I'm in the air and he's on the ground. Sometimes he's in the air and I'm on the ground. And sometimes we are face to face, eye to eye. But if we expect marriage to always be equal, we will resent our spouse. The key is discernment, because love is not fair. There is no fair tale if you want to sustain your marriage. It's gonna cost you. I call this part no fair tale because there is always a price to pay for love. Love requires sacrifice. It means moving from I to we. And that shift, if we are honest, means part of us has to die. Not disappear or be erased, but be transformed. I recently saw a video on social media where a man was asking other men about the importance of their wife taking the husband's last name. And I started thinking about my own decision. I always knew that I would take my husband's last name, but I also always knew I was not getting rid of my maiden name. My father meant too much to me. He is my DNA. I was born Michelle Dawson. Today I am MichelleTRUEFrancois. I do not have a middle name, so I made my maiden name my middle name. No hyphen, no erasing. I have a sorority sister who told me that she made a decision that whatever name that she had when she graduated with her doctorate, that's the name she was going to keep for the rest of her life. She got married after she earned her degree, and she did not change her name. And interestingly, living in the Middle East shifted my perspective even more, because the women there do not take their husband's name. They keep their father's name. And that affirmed something in me. But the comments on that video, baby, if she loved you, she would take your name. Why would you marry him if you wouldn't take his name? And all I could think was, why is this sacrifice so important to men? And what is he taking of hers? What is his sacrifice? In my marriage, my body was sacrificed. I've been pregnant multiple times. I had a C-section, a miscarriage, another C-section, another miscarriage. My body has been cut, stretched, stitched, scarred. And I do not regret any of it. My babies are a blessing. But let me tell you the truth. My body paid a cost for our marriage, for my children, for our family. And when we reached the point where we knew we were done having children, I asked my husband to make a sacrifice. And baby, it was not easy. He said, "You want me to cut off my manhood?" But love requires sacrifice. I think sometimes men believe that women are trying to change them. But I never wanted to change my husband. I love his creativity, his brilliance, his passion. That is why I married him. What I was asking for wasn't change. It was balance. Yes, you can be a DJ and a barber and a teacher and a coach. But I also need you to be present as my husband and a father. And if you can balance all of that, then do you. But if you can't, something has to give. Sacrifice has to happen somewhere. I am a twin. I understand sharing. I understand not always being first. I understand compromise. So this idea of marriage requiring sacrifice was never foreign to me. But when my son was born, something shifted. I don't believe my husband intended for it to feel like I was sacrificing my career, but that is exactly how I felt. And postpartum depression distorted everything. In my mind, I was saying, how dare you think I went to school for all of those years just for me to sit at home? How dare you ask me to give up my life? I couldn't see past my isolation. I was home alone with the newborn and losing myself. Something had to give. And what had to give was me believing that my happiness was supposed to come from my role as a mom alone. I had to find my own happiness. And for me, it meant going back to work for my sanity. And when I say something has to give, I don't mean love should be transactional, not tit for tat, not I gave up this so you have to give up that, or I gave up this, so now you owe me. Love is not a ledger, but love is costly. And maturity means choosing love, even when it costs is pride. When two become one, it should not mean that there is less of either of you. If you are whole and your spouse is whole, 100% plus 100% equals double for your trouble. Love isn't magic. Love is work. Love is sacrifice. Love is balance. And there is no fair tale, because there is always a price to pay for love. We were lied to as children. Plain and simple. They lied to us. Disney taught us that love is effortless. A damsel in distress, a prince who saves the day, and then happily ever after. But marriage? Baby, marriage is a full-time job. So the real question isn't, do you believe in love? The real question is, how do you show it? Where is the evidence? My love language is quality time. In the beginning of our marriage, my husband loved to buy me gifts. And listen, I appreciate the thought, truly, but I am not a gift person. Thank you, but I don't need it. And half the time, I don't want it. And then he would get upset when I didn't use it or wear his gift. Sir, you are not speaking my language. I do not want trinkets. I want you. I would rather spend uninterrupted time with you than receive anything that money can buy. Now, my husband, he's a collector, which makes it really hard, dang near impossible to shop for him because he already has everything. And I did not know how to love him in his language. Like I said, quality time is my language and acts of service come second to me. So I thought doing things for him was enough to show my love. That was my evidence. But the truth is, we both felt unloved at times. Part of the problem was communication. I am sensitive. I have always been. Probably always will be. When I care deeply, my tears show up before my words do. And my husband believed at first that I was using my tears to manipulate him. That was not my intention, but intention does not erase impact. So I had to learn how to communicate in a way that he could hear me, not just in a way that felt natural to me. Because love isn't just about expression, it's about reception. And here's the part no one tells you about while you're dating. You don't see the whole picture, the full job description. You don't see the long hours, the emotional labor, the misunderstandings, the moments where showing up isn't enough. You don't see the in-between, the parts unseen, the arguments you may or may not mean. Sometimes I don't want you to protect me, to save the day. I don't want your solution. I don't need you to fix it. Sometimes, most times, I just need you to listen. I'm just venting. I'm just processing. Sometimes I've already figured out how to slay my own dragon and the witches at my job. I don't need your sword. I just need your ear. Once we realize we've been given half truths and relationships require proof, we can start looking for evidence. What evidence do you have that you are trustworthy? Can I trust your words? Or do you just like hearing yourself talk? Can I trust you with my heart, with my safety, with my life? Can I trust that you will be kind to me even when you disagree with me? Because let's be real, we have seen too many couples who look perfect while they're dating and terrifying once married. Something shifts. Was it all a facade? Were there red flags that were ignored? Or did they simply not do the work beforehand? Because the work doesn't start after I do. The work starts before. Yet we live in a culture that just wants to have a wedding without understanding marriage. We want the dress, the party, the pictures. But after the rice hits the ground, after the glitter settles, and after the honeymoon phase fades, when it's just two people standing face to face, what is the evidence that it will work? Marriage isn't always pretty. It isn't always ugly either. But it is always work. Before I moved to Turkey, my husband and I realized we have to be intentional. Different time zones could slowly erase connections if we let it. We had to set alarms, create space, protect our relationship beyond our kids. Because if we aren't intentional, this season could undo everything we worked so hard to build. Trust matters more now than ever when distance exists. Old patterns can creep back in. Insecurities can grow if we let it. And if we lose ourselves, we lose everything. Love, marriage, isn't about what you say. Isn't about wearing your wedding ring and posting cute pictures on your anniversary. It's not about claiming a title or a name. Love is what you constantly show. That's what sustains a marriage. No fairy tale, just effort, communication, trust, and balance. Love cannot be effortless. Love is work. You gotta put in work. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the Bible says, love is patient, love is kind. Love does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud, it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking, it keeps no record of wrongdoing. That is not poetry for a wedding. That is a mirror for your marriage. Love is patient. That means I stay with you while you're figuring out things, while you're unpacking your trauma, while you're grieving, while you're becoming. It means I'm willing to have hard conversations instead of shutting down, instead of walking away and tuning you out. Patience says I'm here even when this thing gets uncomfortable. Love is kind. And that means I don't come at you reckless, cussing you out, calling you outside of your name, using words like weapons, and then saying, I was mad, I didn't mean it, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. And then do it over and over again. When you trigger my pet peeves and get on my last nerve, love is kind means I speak to your heart. I speak to your pain, even when I'm angry, especially when I'm angry. Love keeps no record of wrongdoing. That one right there, that is work. Forgiveness without punishment, forgiveness without conditions, forgiveness without digging up the past every time we have an argument. If I said I forgave you, I don't get to keep pulling out the receipts of when you did it last time. That's not love. That's control. It often seems like people closest to us get the worst version of us. Maybe it's because we feel safe enough to let our guard down. We'd never talk to our coworkers or treat a stranger that way. But our spouse, our family, they can take it. At least that's what we tell ourselves. But I believe the golden rule applies even more at home. The tenderness we want, the grace we desire, the patience that we need, we have to be willing to give it. That means admitting when you're wrong and apologizing, and not with food because you hungry is not an apology. Words matter. Now, the good thing is, if you are a child of the Most High God, we have been given a roadmap. Husbands, love your wives as Christ has loved the church. That is sacrificial love. Wives, submit to your husbands. I know that's hard, but it wasn't meant to be easy. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Trying to be a Proverbs 31 woman and an Ephesians 5:25 man takes work. Christ-like, self-sacrificing work. Nobody gets a free pass. Early in our marriage, we attended church in Jonesboro, Georgia. Pastor Battle used to talk about marriage like mountain climbing. He'd say, when things get hard, you tie another knot and hang on. That phrase stuck with us. Tie another knot became our language. When things felt heavy, one of us would ask, "Are you willing to tie another knot and hang on with me?" It was our way of saying, "I'm still here. I haven't given up on us yet." That's perseverance. That's patience. That's kindness. It was not my way or the highway. Not get it right now. Not power struggles. I am not your mother. You are not my father. We are partners. We are a unit. The Bible also says love never fails. And not because people don't fall, because we do. We mess up, we stumble, we disappoint each other. But love keeps choosing to get back up, to tie another knot and hang on. God is love. The kind of love that laid down his life and paid the ultimate price. But he didn't stay in the grave. He got up. That's redemption. And because of Christ, redemption is always possible. So when your marriage feels stuck, unproductive, heavy, ask yourself, am I being who God called me to be in this marriage? Am I loving the way he loves? Are we seeking him together? Because a 3-strand cord, God, husband, and wife, is not easily broken. And with God in the center, it becomes easier to tie another knot and hang on. But we can't fall back into the old patterns. We have to remember to be kind, be patient. Because love is not a fairy tale. There is always a cost. There is always a sacrifice. There is always work. And if you are willing to do that work, I promise it is worth it. So let's bring this thing full circle. In this episode, we talked about how love is not fair. Marriage is not 50-50. It's seasonal. And we must value discernment over symmetry. I told you that love has a cost. And when moving from I to we, parts of yourself must die so something greater can live. I also told you that this thing called love takes work. Not the kind of work that you post on your social media, but the kind that shows up in trust, communication, and consistency. The kind that asks, where is the evidence? And you have all the proof. And I'm ending this with what love actually is. Patient, kind, forgiving, and choosing to tie another knot and hang on. That's the truth about marriage. No fairy tales, no shortcuts, no fluff, just intention. So here's the do something. Not for me, not for Valentine's Day, but for yourself. Evaluate your current relationship or your last one. Ask yourself, where was my evidence of love and where was theirs? Where did we align and where did we miss each other? If you are currently in a relationship, have the courage to talk about it, not as an accusation, but as curiosity. Here's what you can say. This is how I try to love you. This is what makes me feel loved. And then ask them to fill in the blank for themselves. And if you are not in a relationship right now, this still applies to you. Reflect on your expectations, your boundaries, your non-negotiables. Not what sounds good, not what looks good, but what sustains you. Because love is not about perfection. You guys should grow together. It is about awareness, honesty, and growth. Love is not fair. Love is not free. Love is not effortless. But when it is rooted in discernment, willingness, and truth, it is worth it. Let me tell you again, it is worth it. And that is the real love story. No fairy tale. I want to thank you for listening to episode 9 of the Say Something podcast with your girl, Michelle True. And I promise if both parties are willing to do the work, your relationship will thrive. Much love, be blessed, and peace.
Thank you, family, for tuning in to the Say Something podcast with Michelle True. Make sure you like and subscribe to be informed on when the next episode drops. And remember, a closed mouth doesn't get fed, so say something.